All right, I'm sitting here in my living room here with Raiford Starke. Raiford, a lot of people know you, but they don't know anything about you. A lot that's written about you is not true, or just made up. You know, the name Raiford Starke, for example. You know, but that's all part of your colorful background and everything. But do me a favor, just give me a snapshot, a brief biography, autobiography of your life, starting out when way back in Tammany Hall, your relatives. Where do you come from, man?
Where do I come from?
Yeah,
Well, I was born in Connecticut.
Connecticut. What town?
Greenwich.
Okay. And tell me
I was
the story
born
of
in
your
Greenwich,
life.
and then about, I don't know, right after that, my parents moved out of Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
My dad went to Georgetown, and then I don't even know how long they were in D.C. I couldn't remember any of that. Then we ended up in Alexandria, and then by the time I was turned 5, we were in Falls Church, Virginia.
Okay, that's where you were when I met you.
Yeah, well, actually, I was living in Florida when you met me.
That's right,
You met me in 1983-ish.
But your mother was your family was still in Falls Church.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I basically from Northern Virginia.
All right. And when did you start playing music?
Well, when I was 5 years old, I took piano. My mom wanted me to take piano lessons, and I took it from this lady, Miss Connie Ransdell. And even though I only took it for a year, I learned where the middle C was. And Mary had a little lamb. You know what? Just a little bit of piano was a good foundation. I mean, that was just it kind of very fundamental understanding of.
Right.
It was good. It was good that I did it, even though I didn't do piano for years after that.
But did you know at that time that you were from a famous musical family?
A famous musical family?
Didn't you have a relative that wrote Three Blind Mice?
Well, that was a family legend. I don't know if that's true or not, but
It's a family legend.
I think did my dad tell you that one time? Or
Yeah.
yeah, that's my dad told me one time. But I think that's kind of an urban legend. I think he had an aunt that kind of did some kind of a reworking of Three Blind Mice. Like a show tune type version.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. And at some point you picked up the guitar,
Yeah.
which is the instrument, that and the harmonica, that you're most known for.
Yeah.
And then also at some point you came to Florida,
Yeah.
where you have made your name as a Florida folk musician. I mean, even though you weren't born here, you've written a number of Florida folk songs. But go back. Let's go back and talk about the guitar.
Yeah.
You picked up a guitar, and did it come to you natural?
It's hard to say, man. When I first started playing guitar, I mean, I was just strumming. I didn't know what lead or rhythm guitar. I didn't know anything. I wasn't hip to nothing. I listened to the radio. Maybe some of my parents' records. The Beatles. That was everybody in our generation, was liking the Beatles, and I was strumming Beatles chords. I think the first complete song I ever learned how to play on the guitar was kind of was Yellow Submarine.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that was the first song I ever learned how to play and sing at the same time. And I remember going with my best friend was this kid named Mike Hurley. He didn't play any music, but I'd go over to his house. We recorded it on his brother's stereo. That was my first recording session. And I went over to his house and we we recorded Yellow Submarine. We were both kind of singing the chorus together, and I'm sitting there playing it back, and I thought I was making a record right then and there, you know.
How old were you?
I was like 16 or 17. I really started playing guitar when I was 16. I had a Madeira, bought a brand new Madeira acoustic. And,
At this time, were you in Falls Church?
Yeah, I was, I was in high school.
Which, for people that don't know, is basically a suburb of
It's
Washington,
Washington,
D.C.
D.C. It's right inside the Beltway.
You can get there on the subway.
Back then there wasn't a subway, but
Okay.
there was, they put the subway in, they put Route 66 in, which was right by our neighborhood, which that was supposed to cut down on the traffic, but anyway, yeah, I was right inside the Beltway, D.C. suburb, yeah.
Was there a D.C. music scene
Yeah.
for a young
Yeah.
person that was 16?
Well, I didn't really start going out to bars till I was 18, so
Well, what about sock hops and
I didn't really,
teen type things?
I didn't really go to any of that stuff, man. I was kind of like, I wasn't really that good of a student. I hardly ever went to school. I was working, by the time I was 16, I was working on a construction site, and ended up doing it most of the day and going to school in the afternoon, but for 2 classes and still kind of flunked out,
So you dropped out of school, basically? Or?
Yeah, I got a GED. Ended up having to
GED,
do
yeah.
that.
Okay.
But,
So at some point, did you join a band or?
Yeah, my last year in high school, I formed it was a basement band, and it was just basically 3 guys just taking 4 songs and jamming them for 2 hours. That was our, we played these keg parties, grain alcohol parties, whatever.
Were you writing your own songs back then?
Just making up, jams, vamps, and just making a lot of noise. I wasn't really singing much.
When did the muse hit you?
What do you mean, about writing?
Yeah.
Well, I always had music, like a lot of people, you always have music swirling around your head that you think would be, but I never really I never really organized it maybe until, a complete song that I could say is good enough to sing out maybe till I was 20. I wouldn't really.
And what was that song?
Well, I wrote a song called "Middle of a Good Dream."
Middle of a Good Dream.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was kind of an R&B type. I don't know. Kind of a into kind of a soul R&B type song. I used to play it out a little bit, but I didn't really. I tried writing other stuff, but it just wasn't really. I listened to stuff I wrote back then, and I couldn't even listen to it now. It just.
Well, I know that song. I've played it with you.
It's
It's an interesting song. It's a decent song. And you wrote that when you were in your early 20s.
I was 20. Yeah, 20, 21
okay.
maybe.
So when did you really get the kick to start writing a bunch of songs? You had an album. The very first album you wrote had like 10 or 12 songs on it.
Well,
every single one.
No, I didn't write them all.
That's true. That's true.
I wrote about half, actually 5 out of 12. So.
Well, tell me about the guy that wrote the other ones.
Dickie Wilson. When I first moved to Florida, I met him at what is now Caddy's on Sunset Beach. It used to be the
Driftwood Inn, yeah. And why did you move to Florida?
Because I just wanted to get out of Virginia, out of D.C., I just wanted to come down to Florida. I rode down with my dad. I drove him down here. He needed a ride down here, and me and him, we ended up in St. Pete, because I guess this used to be his old, you know. He used to run around down here when he was in the motorcycle.
Your dad was a biker.
Yeah,
biker. He was in a motorcycle group.
Yeah.
He basically, the way the story went, he was a businessman one day, and the next day he took off and became a biker.
Yeah, sort of like that. He sold insurance, or not. Well, he's an insurance claims adjuster. But then he quit that job and became a mechanic at an Oldsmobile dealership in Maryland. And then he bought Harley Davidsons and became a one percenter.
And came down to Florida.
Yeah.
I knew him for years. Nice guy. Well, and so you ran into Dickie Wilson. I met Dickie Wilson. I spent some time with him.
Yeah.
He was a biker. Long hair, rough looking guy.
Yeah.
But Dickie, and I have a lot of this knowledge already knows, but I don't think other people know. But Dickie himself was a really good songwriter.
He was friggin' natural, best songwriter I ever knew. I mean,
and so,
as far as I'm concerned, yeah.
Yeah, and so you somehow got together with him and said, I'm going to write songs.
He inspired me. I mean, he set the bar. I said, I'm going to write a song. This is what a song should be, you know. I mean, he was just a natural storyteller, as you know. He was a character, and he wrote. His songs are brilliant, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, No Trub Doc is they're all great songs.
Cajun type song.
They're just real.
Did he write? Who wrote "Roll On"?
He wrote that.
Yep, there's another one that's a great song.
Yeah, I added one little verse to it, but he basically wrote that. He was working on that, it was one of the last songs he was working on. You know, when we were running the bar and Lonesome Coyote and all that. But
well, I was going to mention that because you got together with Dickie, and at some point your dad came into some money.
Yeah.
And he invested it in a building in the warehouse district up in I guess Pinellas Park area.
Yeah, 62nd Avenue.
Yeah. And created a club called the Lonesome Coyote.
Yeah, Lonesome Coyote.
And very, very interesting place. You had a lot of interesting characters that came in there to play.
Yeah, it was.
And that was around the time when I was first knew you. Basically,
it was open for exactly 1 year, and I mean, really, probably exactly, pretty much close to the day of 1 year. And at first we were trying to, we can get some cool bluegrass, but you know, learned a lot about the club business. The location wasn't the best location for people to just come out, and wasn't like having a place like where the Club Detroit is in St. Peter, you know what I mean? But anyway, it
was an out of the way location, right?
We ended up over trial and error.
But what year was that?
That was 1984, 85.
See, there was really nothing going on, very much going on anywhere in the St.
We were
Pete
the
area.
only, at the time, I think we were the only bar in Tampa Bay that had punk rock, hardcore punk.
Mm-hmm.
We started doing hardcore punk shows.
Did you have Henry Rollins go in there?
We had
Henry
Black
Rollins.
Flag. It was Black Flag.
Black Flag.
We had Suicidal Tendencies. We had Black Flag, Suicidal Tendencies, Husker Du. They just became. You see, all these bands were all new to me, man. They all kind of, blended. Were a big.
Somebody knew who they were because you were booking them in that club.
Dickie was booking them.
Dickie?
But they're very. It was all interesting, man. I ran sound for a lot of that. I helped run sound for a lot of stuff, but my brother was the main sound guy. But I would watch the board for some of these shows, and we had bands like I said. Besides those other ones, Marginal Man, Battalion of Saints, and then we had some really
but at the
great
same
local.
time, you were having local bluegrass bands. And
like Sleepless Nights with Dennis Wallace and the guys.
Greengrass Revival.
The Greengrass Revival, your band, which had some great killer musicians in it. And then we had Stevie and the Hotheads.
Yeah.
And then Dolores Telescope, and then.
Yeah.
All these great legendary bands. I think, you know what? I'm not sure if we had the headlights. I think
that was Steve Conley.
We might have. I don't want to say if we. And there's the local punk bands like Pagan Faith, the Wank Tones.
Did you have the Impotent Sea Snakes?
The Impotent Sea Snakes. Oh my God! Yes, we had those.
That was a legend. What about Charlie Pickett? Did you ever?
That was the band out of all the bands that came into Lonesome Coyote. Out of the punk scene, that was the one band that came in there that I really, really liked.
Was it the Eggs?
Yeah, Charlie Pickett and the Eggs.
Yep.
That was the one that I really just thought was.
And it was funny because I knew their name because I saw it mentioned in some issue of Rolling Stone gave them an award, up and coming band or something. They mentioned them, Charlie Pickett and the Eggs, and I guess he was based in Fort Lauderdale or something, or South Florida.
Yeah, he was based in Miami.
And when you grow up like I did in Cocoa Rockledge, nobody famous ever came through there. You read Rolling Stone and you're reading about all the British invasion and everything else, and they mentioned Charlie Pickett and he's in Fort Lauderdale. And that's why I was just amazed when when he came in there. But and a good songwriter, great songwriter, very very iconic guy. Drove a bulldozer, correct?
That's what I hear.
Yeah, he was a bulldozer driver. That's how he made his money.
And I think I just told you earlier today. I was playing a gig last week or two ago in Sebastian at Earl's Hideaway with a band called the 18 Wheelers, and there's a guitar player, Mike Zulo, really good guitar player in the band with me. We're both playing lead guitar, and he was the Charlie Pickett's drummer for 15 years. And
okay.
I played a gig or two with him once on drums, and he kick-ass drummer, but at the end of our set, who comes up to the stage to introduce himself to me is Charlie Pickett. He was,
still around. Yeah,
he was still around. I said, and he was, complimenting me on some guitar work that I was doing, and I said, man, you were like one of my idols. Basically,
Well, it's why didn't you get a break, or were you offered any kind of opportunity that you turned down, or for like major mega stardom?
I don't think I turned down any
Couldn't
offer.
you have been? Well, couldn't you have been the guitar player in any band? I mean, could you have been in Leonard Skinner or Allman Brothers?
Nobody offered me a gig like that. I could have, man. I think you got to be, I lived in Nashville for a while. If I had stayed there, maybe I could have, jumped into something, if I had. But
you were here in St. Pete, and you had the Allman Brothers and the Leonard Skinner band around Florida. You had,
but I never really
connected up or
I
whatever.
never really hooked up with those guys. I mean, I was in a band called Bounty Hunter with
Yeah,
a
I saw
guitar
that.
player that we all know named Mike Bell.
Yeah, did they play the
And their singer now is the lead singer for Molly Hatchet,
Yeah.
Jim Bob Elkins.
Oh, he is.
Yep.
Jim Bob.
He just became the lead singer for Molly Hatchet.
Great singer, yeah.
He's great, and I played with those guys like right after 9/11. I started, and you came out. I believe
Yeah.
you came out to some of our gigs.
Yep.
And I played with them for about a year or two, and you know we did shows at Artemis Pile, man,
Uh-huh.
during Bike Week or Biketoberfest,
Yep.
and then Black Oak, Arkansas, Alice Cooper, and Molly Hatchet one time at the Orlando Harley Davidson. Well, you know, it was fun, man. That was a lot of
Then
fun.
at the same time, you were playing basically with the bluegrass bands.
Well, yours,
Yeah,
and
maybe
mainly yours, man.
the Greengrass Revival. And then you were even toured around playing folk music. You and I toured
Yeah,
around for a bit.
the folk connection with being working with Chief James
Well,
Billie.
that was the next thing I was going to mention.
Yeah.
He turned up to be the lead guitar player and the musical organizer, really, for producer for James Billie.
Yeah,
Chief of the Seminole tribe, but arguably one of the great Florida folk artists and a national Indian act, really.
yeah, he was great. He was just, he was a living legend.
Mm-hmm. So you had connections in all these different worlds. You had connections
Yeah.
in the southern rock world, the punk world. You had the bluegrass world, the Indian world. I mean, look at all the Indian bands and performers that you either played with or that. We used to put on shows with all Indian bands. Remember that?
Yeah, like the biggest, one of the memorable ones was, for me at least, was in Atlanta, 1996.
Yeah, at the Olympics.
Powwow, and right when the Olympics were going on, and that's where I met a lot of the Indian artists. Like
Keith Secola.
That was. You ended up sitting in playing with all those guys.
Yeah.
The guy that I really thought was neat at the time, somebody said, "Hey, can you play some harmonica and guitar with my dad?" And his dad was Paul Ortega. Remember that guy?
Yeah. Yep.
He was a folk singer. I guess he was from the late '60s. He was a legendary
Legend. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And this guy was. And I
American
ended up getting his cassettes, and just for the next year or so, I wore his cassette out, man. But playing with him, I was just putting little harmonica fills in and playing some really simple guitar, just a good. He was neat.
So there was a whole, and it was many years, almost 20 years. You played up and down, back and forth with James Billie.
Yeah,
and his
that was
band.
probably playing with James Billie was.
We traveled around the world.
That got me. That kind of got me into the folk scene, I guess. And we did the Arctic. We went up to the Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
Up to Inuvik. Played
Inuvik,
3
and
days.
we were north of the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, within the
Northwest
Arctic Circle.
Territories.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was 1995-ish, and of course, I'd like to mention too. I was in the Keys for a couple of years
That's right.
with Big Dick and the Extenders, and that was big.
That's another, just a legendary band.
That was another. I gotta, that was. You got me hooked up.
Yeah,
kinda with,
yep. I remember Dutch left for some reason, and somehow I found out that Big Dick and the Extenders needed a lead guitar player. I forget how I found out.
Yeah.
And we were down in Sunset Beach, and I got my phone out and called. I tracked him down, and I said, "Hey, man, I've got a guy for you." He didn't even know who I was. And he said, send him down. And, of course, after you got down there and started playing with him, he called you the Buzzard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Buzzard. And but he was a great talent, just a legend down there. Anybody that went down to a spring break and traveled down through the Keys ended up running into Big Dick.
Yeah.
He played at one or two places.
He played at Woody's.
Woody's, uh-huh.
And then Mile Marker 82, and then Bayside.
Mm-hmm.
And then right next door at the Lorelei.
Lorelei, yeah.
On Saturday and Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, everybody was there.
Well, what was up?
And he had a great voice. He was a bass player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And always had a hot band, and of course you were his guitar player. So
yeah, me and
Spring Break, and this was the heyday of Spring Break.
Oh,
this was just the monumental crowds coming down, the college students,
it
and
was
just
crazy. We were playing during Spring Break for 40 straight days. We played every night, 7 nights a week, plus the afternoon. By that time, we were only playing that one matinee gig at the Lorelei. We played in the afternoon, played double ones, and we played every freaking night for 4 or 5 hours, no break. No break. Straight, and the place would be packed for 40 straight days, man. And
I was in awe of those guys. I mean, I thought, man, this is like one of the greatest gigs in the world. Just, they're out there playing, girls in bikinis running around. Just, you're in the paradise. It
was something
on islands in the Keys.
It was like blur, man.
But he was a genuinely good guy, because I remember calling him up one time and joking with him and talking about, and he said something to me like, "Hey, how come you don't get us a gig up in your part of the world?" Because he'd get a gig in Texas, or he'd fly somewhere. People would hire the whole band to go somewhere. And I said, "Well, you're not going to come play at." We were at I think the Sloppy Pelican. I think when he came out there.
Yeah, it was years later.
St. Pete Beach.
Years later, yeah.
Yeah, and I said, "Well, you're not going to go there. I couldn't pay you that kind of money." He goes, "I don't need any money. I've made a lot of money, Pete. I don't need money."
Yeah.
I said, "Really?" And darned if he didn't show up, man. I put the word out. People couldn't believe it. It was just a gigantic throng.
Packed the place.
I mean, no one would ever believe that he would come. No one had ever seen him out of the Keys, So
he drew
just a good guy. Yeah.
The word would get out if he was somewhere no matter where he was. A crowd. That guy drew a crowd. Somehow the word got out. He was another Florida legend.
Oh, big time.
There's
So you were able to play with him for a great, and of course he died an early death. I mean
it's about 74, I believe. But yeah.
But still, he was quite a Florida character.
Yeah.
One Florida character that a lot of people all around the country, all around the world knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because any tourists that came down there ran into Big Dick and the Extenders.
He was a word of mouth legend.
What was his real name?
Jack Snipes.
Jack Snipes. That's right.
From Jacksonville. Yeah.
Yep. Big Dick and the Extenders. That was crazy. Well, and then you stayed in St. Pete for a while. In fact, we lived together out on the beach, different places, and went through different relationships and had all kinds of crazy things happening. But you eventually went. What did you do after that? That's when you left and you went to the Keys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then what happened to you?
After I went to the Keys, meeting the Extenders and all that.
Yeah.
I went down to the Keys. Remember, you probably might remember, on my 30th birthday, 1991, to audition for that band. I stayed out, and I didn't think I was gonna. I figured I'd go down there for a few months, put a few bucks in my pocket, and come back up there. But I ended up staying there for 2.5 years, and then by the end of by the, after about almost 2.5 years, I found out that I was going to be a father.
Oh, okay.
And
You had a son.
I had a son, and that was kind of like, when I found out I was going to be a dad, I moved to Fort Lauderdale with my son's mother, and
Rosie.
became a dad. Yeah, Rosie. Yeah,
She was a mailman, a mail lady.
She eventually became a mail lady, but not until way later.
Yeah.
But yeah, we raised a son together.
Mm-hmm. And he's a good guy, man. He's a big boy. He played quarterback on the football team.
He was a star quarterback at Coral Shores High School in Tavernier, Florida, for his junior and senior year. He's an all-around star athlete. He's just a great kid.
Yeah. What's he doing now?
He's coaching football. He's an assistant varsity coach at St. Andrews in Boca Raton.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's a substitute teacher at this other school in Boynton
Beach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing a lot. That's all kind of.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, he's doing. And he's been coaching lacrosse during lacrosse season, and basketball, and he coached JV football, the head coach for that. He's doing all kinds of sports, related stuff.
Mm-hmm. And your mother is still around. Your dad died years ago. He was buried up in the Veterans Cemetery at Bushnell. He was a veteran.
Yep.
Only about a block away from where my dad was buried. Although they dug him up and moved him to the cemetery, the Veterans Cemetery in Cape Canaveral, which is closer to where my family is because we all grew up in the Cocoa area. And but your mom is she's over in Delray, is it, or
she's in Fort Pierce?
Fort Pierce, okay. And I saw your brother tonight, Thomas. I haven't seen him. I don't really think it's since your dad's funeral. That late eyes on him.
Probably, yeah.
You have a brother, Denny, that's in Orlando area.
Mm-hmm.
And who's the other one?
I got a brother, Jonathan, up in Manassas, Virginia.
Okay.
And a sister in Haymarket, Michelle.
Haymarket,
Virginia.
Okay.
And her and her family. She's got grandkids.
Because see, I'm glad we're doing this because people watch you, like at the show tonight. And we'll have some video that we'll intersperse into this interview, and they're gonna, they see you what you do, and they don't realize that you're just a regular person. Even Sarasota Slim was saying, I just don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it. He himself is a great performer. So
he is.
So finally, you settled down for a while down in what they call the last frontier, the South Everglades City, the Western Everglades area, the 10,000 Islands, Everglades City, and Chuckaluski, Goodland. You hung out there. Very, very, very interesting places. Classic Florida places. You played at Joni's Blue Crab, which is the only place at one time, I don't know about, I haven't been around there in a couple of years, but it was the only place you could get a beer between on the Tamiami Trail. You'd have to almost go to Fort Lauderdale to get a beer, from Naples.
Between Naples and Fort Lauderdale,
and, owned by a very eccentric lady, sweet lady, Joni.
Played there for quite a few years. For
Lunchtime, yeah. And I've played there, and you'd start out playing, and there'd be nobody there for an hour, and then all of a sudden 400 bikes would drive up, and you had a full house of people,
Oh, yeah.
And then you played at the Port of the Islands, which even to this day is kind of a hangout for some of the old smugglers and the DEA agents that put them away, right?
I don't want to say anything. And there was also the Little Bar,
The Little Bar in
Which is
Goodland. Yes.
which was a great place. That
A
was
wonderful, wonderful restaurant, folks. If you ever get down to the town of Goodland, which is the southern tip, really, of Marco Island, you go over a big old bridge into a little tiny town, and there's a couple 5-star restaurants in that
the
town.
Little Bar is the
That
best
is
place.
the place, and the bar is little, but they have
Got
every
some great,
famous act you can imagine to go through there. Plays in that.
some great bands, great acts.
Oh yeah,
great,
absolutely.
great blues, all kinds of good
And
stuff.
our buddy Nikki that runs it, the owner of it.
Yeah.
She's a native of that area, the
She's from
Bowers.
Chicago area.
Yeah, but I mean, she grew up. She's been there for many, many years.
Yeah, oh, yeah. She's
Yeah.
been there since the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And then we, of course, the Angler's Cove at the Port of the Islands.
that's right. Hmm.
Another good place.
The place in Homestead. What was that place? Redlands.
The Redland Tavern.
Redland
which,
Tavern.
That
yeah.
was where I played with Big Dick and the Extenders on Sunday afternoon
Uh-huh.
in the last few years that he was alive. And then,
So-
and then there was a place, of course, in Everglades City called Lebo's.
Lebo's. Oh
That
my
was
goodness! It didn't even
kid.
have walls. It had screen for walls.
Yeah, and that place. Of course, you had Lebo on your folk show.
Yeah.
He is a.
Mhm.
There was another Florida.
Oh,
Florida
he's still
legend.
out there, right? He's.
Oh yeah.
Is he working for the Swamp Buggy?
He works. Yeah, he drives airboats.
he drives the airboats. Yeah.